Sabine, thank you very, very much for joining me. I'm very excited for this conversation. First of all,
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Listen, you were my editor, right? So I think that a little bit of background. I met you as part of the InsurTechBook, and that was, I can't believe, but that was at least 4, if not 5 years ago.
That's correct. So we worked on the InsurTechBook in 2017, and we finished the book in between March, May 2018. That's when we published it. So yes, we know each other for at least 5 years.
And that was I can't thank you enough, you, Susan, and I'm very sorry for forgetting the name of the other co-editors. And needless to
So you have Suzanne, you have for sure myself, but you also have Nicole Anderson and Sean Milley.
Yes, and Sean, I had a great opportunity to meet a few times later. And was it Blue Hair that she's running, or? Yeah.
Correct.
So
she runs Blue Hair. I guess a platform to enable women in tech, new entrepreneurs to do PR and marketing better. She sits on a few boards. She has a very loud voice because she knows insurance for having worked in it for over 20 years. From looking at it from probably a much more marketing and branding viewpoint, building some of the greatest event with Insurance Times, actually. That's the way I met Sean at the time, many years back.
And that's a shout out for all of these very respectable and successful women. And how about you? Are you working on a new book? Do you have anything else besides building new companies and investing in ventures?
So yes, past 18 months has been really focused on building Alchemy Crew, taking all the things I learned for the past, 6 years, building Accelerator and bringing it to the next level. Combining investor thinking with startup growth and venture thinking, and really listening to insurers. So I tend to still be very much concentrated on the insurer, but we get approached, by other industry, which is also fascinating. So yes, building a company, maybe building a second company, because why stop at one? But
of course, why? Yeah.
But also, working on really understand what corporate venturing is. So yes, I'm working on my next book, and I want to be kind of different. It's not just about writing like you. You are running a podcast and webinars and the voice of. I want to learn from people out there. So I spend a lot of reading the theory, because I'm also a professor at Bias Business School, where I teach InsurTech disruption once a year, right? But it's a lot of work to build for that course for the executive MBAs at CAS Business, now Bias Business School, which therefore forces me to look at theory and really understand, the pillars of how things work. But I want the voice of practical, real people. And so it's finding the balance between the two to then start writing.
There are so many, milestones in your career, and people don't know that. I think that they don't know. Most likely they do, that you started actually at Lloyd's of London. Then you were in other insurance places. And then I think that from the InsurTech, there wasn't really InsurTech before that, but that was Startupbootcamp. How did you get there before we'll actually talk about Alchemy Crew? Because that's like the interesting, the latest news, right?
So I've been in insurance for 25 years. I started my career a long time ago at Lloyd's of London. I arrived in the UK doing a program which has been the most important and amazing program in my life, called Erasmus. With Brexit, Erasmus has been cancelled, I guess, last year, which is very sad. But I came to the UK through a program called Erasmus, which allowed me to go and study overseas. And I fell in love with London and I stayed. After those studies, yes, I went into insurance. I started my career at Lloyd's of London. I was fortunate because I was working as a graduate trainee in a broker, and I learned a lot around fine art and diamonds and beautiful art and expensive people as well. You know, I could see how you insure the voice of Madonna or the foot of Beckham. All these things was going through Lloyd's, beside the satellite and all the things. So it was great to learn the world of insurance and underwriting, but also I became a regulator. So once upon a time, regulation was at Lloyd's. So don't ask me for my age. And then I went to do my MBA and move into companies serving insurance. So work for IBM acquired PwC, Monday. So I work for the consulting part of IBM. I then decided, great to produce those beautiful reports, the strategy reports, but I want to get my hand dirty around execution. So I moved into technology, strategy, and partially AI, predictive analytics. Sorry, it was called predictive analytics. And so worked on really amazing initiative, global initiative. I was part of a SWAT team. We worked with some of the biggest bank and biggest insurer. I was traveling the world and solving for wealth management and insurance, operational excellence type initiative. It was all around the operating model. So making it better, faster, and leveraging strategy and technology to make that happen. And then I moved to a company like FICO and Pega, where in FICO, I was working on risk management. So using predictive analytics for risk management. And in Pega, it was predictive analytics for customer experience. So there's a thread around everything. And then the last corporate I worked for was called SSP, Core System, a UK-based company comparable to Guidewire. And I was head of strategy of innovation there.
And from there was the leap into ventures?
So the leap into ventures was, yes, at SSP, I had the fortunate opportunity to work with their PE, private equity. So SSP was owned by private equity, and I was reporting to the PE fund on strategy. And then that got me interested in working with investors. And after 5 years working with a great team over there, I learned a lot. I hopefully delivered a lot of value as well. I decided to move into fintech. So a group of investors, connections, asked me whether I would consider helping them with one of their ventures. And I thought, why not? Let's look at what this fintech thing is. That was in 2014. And after a year, I said, this thing's called fintech has to happen in insurance. And then I set up my first company where I was starting advising Lloyd's, Accord, the LUA around innovation strategy and looking at InsurTechs to do that. And the first company I was actually supporting was Tractable. You can ask Alex. That was the first company I was engaging with a long time ago.
After that.
And then after that, Startupbootcamp. So it was, Startupbootcamp, InsurTech, Hartford InsurTech hubs are accelerators, insurance industry accelerators, and Startup Bootcamp as a series of accelerators focuses usually on industry. You will see, sports tech, transport. You will see a variety of topic, and they had started with fintech in London and in Singapore. And at the time, my dear friend Nectarios approached me and said, would you consider taking over InsurTech? Now it's interesting because my lens of the world of insurance was insurance. That's it. I was only talking to insurers. I was traveling the world, from Australia to Singapore, to the US to just meet insurance companies. So, and also helping shape innovation conferences. So the interesting thing leaping into the accelerator world is that now you are able to touch not only the insurer, but then you also have different stakeholders, investors and the startups. And I guess when you look at the hockey stick, as to how many people know you, I was able with that project to, I guess, spread my name, globally, probably much faster. But to answer your question around accelerators, so the interesting thing about accelerators, I think, is they are needed and they are really key to help corporates, if they are industry accelerators, interact with ventures and really understand new topics, new problems, and actually start seeing how that problem is going to shape itself. So I think the best way to start understanding a major change in industry is really good to do it with an accelerator. So today you will see stuff coming up with sustainability tech, which is, people are still trying to find out what it means to our world. And when, you have understood what it is and how you can integrate those type of thinking in your organization, usually you need to move to the next thing. And so what you probably saw is, as we were running Accelerator, 3-month Accelerator, where we would welcome startups to collaborate with ventures, with corporates. And at the end of the process, for me, it was, probably commercial pilot and POCs. When you actually see the evolution, then you move to what we call venture labs, which are very much problem-centric. So corporates will come with specific problems, big problems. And then what you need to do is, my strategy is always, why build when you can partner? You can build stuff, but let's think about time to market, right? So why build when you can partner? And if there are solutions available, which are very cheap for you to implement, let's just do it, like Nike would say. So that is where, my sweet spot is. And execution for me is partnership or accelerating thinking around investment. So that is my number one area. But what you find is, again, evolution, is that a lot of companies now approach me and Alchemy Crew for venture building. And so my way of looking at the problem is probably slightly different. I don't think everybody needs to build Hippo or lemonade. I look at problems which probably are, still disruptive, but can be solved slightly differently. And so, because there's so much big space around venture build, and it depends how you want to interpret it. So yes, there's an evolution from acceleration to what I was doing, co-creation labs, where I became probably less visible in 2019, where I was refining that method with a number of insurers and a lot of ventures. And then now we have, we are scaling our model to make it really easy for insurers to get outcome done in, 4 to 6 months. And then the bigger project will be probably 12 months.
I think that you covered so many different things that I should have taken notes so I'll remember all the follow-up questions that I want, because beside that, and starting to dive into Alchemy Crew, and I need to give a shout out to Roberta Profeta. She was back there. She made the first introduction or brought to my attention bootcamp and what you're doing. She was with, or still is with INSA Sao Paulo. Back then, she was based in London. So that was a shout out.
Yes, beautiful Roberta. We missed Roberta. We want people
Very
to be traveling back to London.
very energetic, Roberta.
She's wonderful. Yeah, wonderful.
I
And you
think
have a lot
now
of wonderful people you probably met when you came to London. You know, you mentioned Roberta. I met Mike Siegel through Roberta as well. You know, it's interesting how, you know, our community and network gets to connect with one another.
it's every time that people, I was just in Israel for 4 weeks in New York, and we keep talking about that. It's a global industry, but at the end of the day, it's very small.
Yeah.
And I know that you cannot travel to ITC, but ITC is such an incredible, I would say, example of how, a show of, that's the number of people who affect this industry, and it's
Yes,
growing, and it's
absolutely.
amazing. But let's continue talking about you, because that's the main thing. People, tuned in not to hear me, to hear you. A few months ago, I had Dan White from 90. He came to talk about ESG and 90, and he touched a little bit about his involvement with Alchemy Crew. So you, Min, Alchemy Crew, that's, as you said, that's the next level. What are you guys
Yes.
focusing on?
So when you look at the reason why we came together is, all three of us working in insurance, and we wanted to look at the problem, I hope slightly differently. So Dan's focus is very much on innovation, is great framework is 1, 2, 3, and enabling insurance company to either train to do innovation or to actually start looking at the framework to build and shape the right propositions. Now, Mina and I know each other for a very long time because we always wanted to set up a fund together. So Min look at the problem from a proper venture capitalist viewpoint. Is an investor. And so two parts, my portfolio of startups, the startups I've worked with for the past 5 years, Min will help me see whether we can help them with investment. He will look at the is a term sheet, or is going to look at the deck with me. But Means is all about working with insurers as well and setting up funds. So for sure, part of the proposition is building funding through the Mandalore brand. So we split the brand based on core competency. Really, Alchemy is about corporate venturing 101. Mandalore Partners is VC as a service, is really getting the fund built for insurance companies. And it means Alchemy can become the R&D lab or the venture builder, the transition between the two to actually identify winning proposition and hopefully bet on what we all are looking for, unicorns, right?
Interesting. No, it's very interesting. So you have an R&D arm and you have a VC for as a service.
Yeah.
How is that? How that works exactly?
So, I would say insurers approach us, the one who actually want to learn about investing. A lot of insurers still do not have a fund. And depending as to how much risks they want to take around building their fund, we create and design funds based on their needs. Well, Min does. So that Min, chop, chop, that's your job. But yes, Min focuses on looking at the needs for fund. And, it's also looking at asset classes. So it's about looking at new asset classes coming into market and helping our partners or LPs to become a bit more disruptive and actually have somebody really dedicated on getting done right. A lot, I think, of CVCs, some have succeeded, some have failed. And when we get approached by, I wouldn't say fail, sorry, I apologize. It's what I mean. I've done not as well as they hoped to do. At the end of the day, when you do InsurTech, for instance, it takes a long time. I got that, you've seen the numbers, it takes 7 to 10 years to get a unicorn. So imagine how long it takes to actually get, a portfolio of ventures in InsurTech to actually yield the right return, particularly in B2B, where, it can take up to 18 months to close a deal with a large corporate. So what Mean aims to do is look at the venturing problem, the investment problem from a corporate viewpoint, but also therefore providing the capabilities to actually achieve or get the results done faster. That means we do a lot of math. We have to do a lot of scorecard and evaluation. And Mean does that.
So what is the challenge that the corporate or the insurance companies are facing that they need your help?
So when you look at the established players, I think for the past 18 months, different organizations have experienced different challenges. Mm-hmm. Because those who actually invested in innovation, right? And so they have not seen major change except people, as working from home and adapting lifestyle working from home. But those who actually potentially didn't look at digitization deep enough have had to keep the light on, right? So when today you go and talk about, the next big thing and getting them to want to think about, collaborating with ventures or solving for what I call Horizon 2 and 3 things, they look at it as like, no, Sabine, I'm just doing efficiency right now, right? I just need to deal with things which were broken already, which I need to repair now. So when you look at big organization, you will find that there is probably two groups of companies. The one which are going to try to move fast and those who actually have to, keep the light on and just repair what is broken. So you will see a big differentiation or the big gap between those focusing on efficiency, innovation, right? Claims particularly, or, using automation to sort out things which should be working for their customers. Mm-hmm. And those who are going to focus on what I call product service innovation, sustaining innovation, or game-changing innovation. And probably you will see that, by reading, Coverager, and you will see, if you see the type of activities some insurers are working on and the partnership they are doing with ventures, that can give you a view as to who is doing what. Yep. I think today companies need to be really problem-centric, though. And so they just need not to go and look at too many things at the same time. They have to make fewer bets, potentially, but the right one. And it's why, when you ask me, what challenges or what things I've seen from talking to the large corporates that are trying to solve for, health and wellness, behavioral health is a big issue. I remember 6 months ago, a lot of them was asking me about mental health. Now we have moved to behavioral health and the whole digital health ecosystem as how to build for the customer of tomorrow, partly if it's a Gen Z or a millennial. Then I think the second bucket, which is, as you know, very important to me, sustainability. And I look at sustainability from a transition economy viewpoint, shift in business model. Your client of tomorrow, energy companies, are not allowed to use fossil fuel anymore. They have to move to renewable energy. So what does that mean? And you have to use a lot of tech to make that transition. So it means you end up having to deal, my third pillar, emerging risk. So, what are the emerging risks we need to deal with? And so I would say I'm not trying to boil the ocean. I want to be super focused, go into depth around a few things. And those are, I think, some of the challenges the organizations I'm working with are highlighting they want to solve for.
Thank you. Now, we are reaching the last question. And that's the same question that I'm asking everyone that comes on the show. Please give us a recommendation of a life hack, a book, a great audiobook, whatever that may be, that you picked up in the past, what are we now? 18 months, yeah. If we're saying COVID started in March 2020, yep.
So if you want a hack around things I'm, working on. So I guess there are two things. I spend a lot of time, I love Alex Water. So this is, I think, something, and a lot of my methods, a lot of new things I'm doing is based on that, the Invincible company, how to build unicorns. But the other one is probably because, as I said to you, I'm really big around corporate venturing. One of the, I think, interesting book is from Heidi Mason, Corporate Venturing. A survival guide, where you actually, interesting enough, you will see mimicry being exhibited in there.
Fantastic. Sabine, thank you very, 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 very much for joining me today. It's been an honor hosting you. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Gilad. Always there for you. And enjoy ITC. I can't wait to see the social media. I can't wait to retweet and to like. So make sure that there's a lot of things happening.
I'll do my best. I hope to see you soon. Cheers.
Same here. Bye. Thank you.